What's the good word, DKB here. So we have our Week 6 matchup against the Green Bay Packers, and we are already kind of spoken about some of the highlights that are going to go into this. We know the quarterback battle, the mentor, legend, future Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers will be going into his home field with Zach Wilson, who's been having some fantastic sound and safe play lately. But we've still seen the rocket arm and some of the amazing things that have come with that as well. And I wanted to break down a little bit further kind of how the Packers may approach trying to knock the New York Jets off their game and what we've been able to do defensively so far and kind of what we should be doing against them as well to a certain degree. So there's three key factors here. The first one being we need to be implementing more of a single high safety look so that we can bring Whitehead into the box or however we want to divvy it up. Whitehead would be the obvious choice since Lamarcus Joyner is a little bit more experienced and better in coverage in order to maximize our run stopping capabilities. So when it comes to the running game, it's something that's been undersold a little bit with the Packers. They have a very effective running game. But with Aaron Rodgers at the helm, you do want to put the game ball in his hands as much as possible to a certain extent. But they're not necessarily maximizing their offense as well as they could be and as well as we've seen in years past. And we're operating out of the same offensive systems. Essentially, it's just a few different principles, different wrinkles, and theories that we have here. But between the LaFleur brothers, we're essentially doing the same thing. So we kind of have an intimate feeling of what they want to do. Obviously, with Aaron Rodgers at the helm, that's going to look a lot different in some of the weaponry that they have. But they really should be relying through their run game if they want to have a smart game plan against us. Now, historically, our run defense has been pretty porous lately. We have been very strong through the first 5 weeks, though, which is something that nobody would have necessarily predicted us finishing in the top 10 at least 5 weeks through the season. Now, when we take a look at the Packers' weapons, they have Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon as their two-headed monster rushing attack. Aaron Jones is the more lethal of the two. He's currently ranking 8th, and he's ranking 8th in yards after contact. He's averaging almost 4 yards after somebody even attempts to put paws on him. He's also 6th in missed tackles forced, which is something that we have experienced as well with Michael Carter. Generally speaking, he's going to make the first guy miss pretty frequently. He's also averaging 6.4 yards per attempt, which is good for second in the NFL right now. And it's not like he's only getting the ball, 6, 7, 8 times per game. I would say we can expect double digits if things go their way and they don't have to abandon the run game early and often. So he is a huge force that we need to be on the lookout for, and we have some ways to combat that, right? Secondly, though, with the follow-up to him, they have A.J. Dillon, who's no slouch either. He's tied for 16th in the NFL, and he's had 15 first downs on his own. So he's not quite as elite as what they're getting out of Aaron Jones, but when he's coming in, he's making things happen for them. Now, on our end, again, our defensive line so far through the season, we're in the top 10, and a lot of that is the presence of Quinnen Williams. A lot of that is seeing players like Sheldon Rankin step up. Jermaine Johnson has been a huge benefit to us in the run game, and even better than him has been Michael Clemens. And so, especially seeing JJ come out, we should see some more snaps with him. It's a lot less of a liability for us this go around. Having Quan Alexander have a bigger presence in the linebacker room has assisted quite a bit. And Quincy Williams, he may potentially return this weekend. While he's a bit of a, laser focused rocket sometimes, the sound play isn't always there, but we should do a good job of containing. This is exactly why we need to have that single high safety look. This is where Whitehead, this is where Whitehead plays some of his best ball against the line of scrimmage. When we went back and seen him in free agency, a lot of his wild plays, things that popped off of tape, was not only his snap, recognition. He was able to get a pretty good head start on the ball on quite a few plays, but you see him easily attack the lane that's open. He can kind of slide around guys a bit finesse style. Sometimes he just puts his nose down and gets his shoulder pads in there, but he's able to go in there and clog those lanes, make those tackles for losses. And I think we should see a really comfortable game from him if that is, in fact, the way we choose to deploy him. Now, secondly, we're talking about avoiding the blitz at all costs. This is something that has turned the heads of every NFL fan for the New York Jets, and of course, opponents for us, is the rate at which we were blitzing before. Not only that, though, we were having success. When we blitzed, we were causing pressures 55% of the time, which is, it looks great on paper. However, some of the behind the scenes stats that played a huge part in this is the fact that we got 0 sacks off of those blitzes. And so something we've seen the last 2 weeks against the Steelers, against the Dolphins, is the fact that we've reduced that to less than 10% of us blitzing our opponents, and we've really exploited the tendencies that we've seen. The Sauce Gardner sack, safety against Teddy Bridgewater was kind of the enlightening play of exactly what they've been doing. So not only does it cause you to have to think a little bit further about when you may get attacked, we've been much more effective at doing this. So in addition to that, we've also kind of switched how we've been doing our rotation. We're still implementing it, but either Jeff Ulbrich has gotten more comfortable, or maybe this is something he's done based on the opponents that we faced. They haven't been the strongest offensive lines. I want to say that the Steelers were ranked 22nd. The Dolphins were ranked 31st. This would be a huge challenge for us because coming into this matchup, the Dolphins had the 10th ranked offensive line. So this should really give us our most solid indicator of how effective is our front four unit when we're sending these attacks. But Aaron Rodgers has been a mastermind against blitzes his entire career. He's struggling a little bit more so in certain areas that he may want to attack the field, but that's not necessarily due to blitzes. So some of the numbers that stand out and something we can exploit is the deep passing efficiency that they have not had this season. Deep passes, meaning essentially anything that's going to be over 20 yards. 13.1% of Rodgers' attempts have been successful. This puts him about in the middle, ranking of quarterbacks this season, and he's only completed 27.3% of those passes, about 8 yards per attempt. So he's essentially ranking last in the category when he's doing this. His efficiency on it kind of puts him at 27th with a 56.8 passer rating on those kind of throws, and this is one of his worst since the 2016 season, which is right before essentially Davante Adams really started having a strong breakout season. And he's always kind of had some kind of proven presence or somebody that stepped up and then kind of went into elite territory. He doesn't necessarily have that anymore. Between Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Christian Watkins being there, Romeo Doubs, he's relying on a lot of guys that not only are unproven, but guys that are kind of heading into those tween twilight years for themselves. So it's not the same kind of situation that he's in. It almost even feels like he's kind of forcing the situation to a certain degree, which is what we can take advantage of with our cornerbacks. We have some of the best cornerbacks the NFL can offer, and I would argue anybody the best cornerback tandem, at least through these first 5 weeks so far. I mean, passer rating wise, DJ Reed is ranked 3rd in the NFL. Sauce Gardner is ranked 12th, and Sauce Gardner is tied for 1st in the league with 4 passes defended. So we've essentially shut down the top 2 weapons for any offense, and it's not a strong suit. If we it kind of leads into the third point that we need to bump up our man coverage rate potentially a little bit more in this matchup, because we've essentially eliminated 2 weapons for them. In this case, this would most likely be Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb for them, and there's not a whole lot behind them. Romeo Doubs looks like a fine piece, but they've had mixed success against man coverage and zone coverage, and it really ends up kind of varying. But it puts them anywhere from 18th best against man coverage to about the 89th ranked player in man between their top 3 weapons. And our defensive line, without having to blitz, should really be able to take advantage of all of this. The lockdown coverage on the back end, having that extra safety and Whitehead at the line. We found potentially our best lineup that works in terms of some of our top 3 pass rushing weapons. Here's something that stood out to me. When we have Quinnen Williams, Bryce Huff, and Carl Lawson on the field at the same time, and this has only happened to a minimal degree in 2 games, 19 snaps together, 15 pressures, 6 quarterback hits, 3 sacks. That's only in 2 games, and we're seeing the numbers rise. The shift of our defensive line is also something that's been a huge plus. Quentin Williams' time has bumped up. Shepard, Rankins, Solomon Thomas, we've seen their time decrease a bit to bump up Carl Lawson and to bump up Bryce Huff, who's obviously inactive for the first handful of games. But we're seeing all of these other players' time decrease a little bit. And then again, with Jermaine Johnson tending to that ankle and already being ruled out this game, maybe that means we see Michael Clemens, who should help us in this game with his run defense, 80.9 grade per PFF so far. So he's kind of in that elite territory already as a run defender. And JJ was no slouch either. Clemens has just been better at it in the opportunities that they've had. So I am looking very forward to this game. I think it's a fairly simplistic game plan to employ, but one that we're definitely going to need to make sure we're on our P's and Q's for. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I mean, ultimately, I don't think we see any kind of exotic blitzes like we've seen previously so far. But I do think we keep it fairly simplistic. We rush our four. We've been seeing the success in the last 2 weeks and reaping the rewards of increasing that playing time. And there's been no indication that DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner are going to, suddenly fall off with Aaron Rodgers coming into town. So super excited for this game. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are in terms of if there's another way you see us attacking this offense and shutting them down, or how Aaron Rodgers expects to attack us. And I will catch you guys again. Peace.